What's going on right now that most people have no idea about? The co-director of the Melanoma Institute in Australia and world-leading melanoma pathologist Professor Richard Scolyer is fighting a terminal brain cancer glioblastoma. He and his co-director and best friend Georgina Long are using the research and knowledge that have gained through fighting melanomas to find a cure for this currently incurable cancer. He is the first human trial for a cancer vaccine alongside personalized immunotherapy. Pretty amazing that someone with so much knowledge in the area of cancer treatments can fast-track a potential cure for this brain cancer. I hope it goes well for him. I lost my dad to that. It will be 2 years in March that he passed away. This gives me hope that others will not have to suffer the way my dad did. It's a horrible way to go. And extremely hard and heartbreaking for families. I watched my father become a shell of himself. At the end he couldn't talk. Didn't even know my mom, who he was with for 53 years. Bill in the US Senate to ban major corporations from buying homes. Forgive me if even I missed a detail. Hilarious how little coverage it's getting. They discovered a new antibiotic that kills MRSA. Wait, that is actually amazing. It takes 100x more time to develop a new antibiotic than any other drug. The Ocean Cleanup Initiative has a new system clean up an area the size of a football field every 5 seconds. The previous one extracted 282,787 kilograms of trash from the Pacific Ocean so far. They're also working on interceptors for rivers that have collected over 840 tons of trash and counting. There's a long way to go, but they have lots of support and they're making amazing progress. Okay, now back to the bad news. Thanks so much for sharing this. How do you find positive news? I've been following the story loosely for a few years, since I saw their first prototype video on Facebook. I was pessimistic, thinking it wouldn't ever come to fruition. And then one day this year I saw their real-life system actually working and I was so thrilled. The greater one-horned rhino population in India and Nepal is growing, as highlighted in the State of the Rhino Report, 2023, by the International Rhino Foundation. The collaboration among India, Bhutan, and Nepal, along with strict government protection and management, has led to an increase in their population over the past decade. The greater one-horned rhino population, which once numbered as low as 100 in the early 1900s, has increased to more than 4,014 now. Finally, some good fucking news in this thread that isn't about someone's bowel movements. They're breeding the rhinos to use in war to eliminate the existential threat of Tibet once and for all. Tiger and rhino populations have seen a good surge thanks to restoration efforts by India and Nepal. Tiger tourism in India is booming as well. Ranthambore and Kumaon have jeep tours that take you deep into tiger territory. And in the Sundarbans, they take you on a boat deep into aquatic tiger territory. The Sundarbans tigers are the world's best man-eaters, actively hunting local human populations for centuries, so locals wear masks in the back of their heads to ward off stalking tigers, and they've been known to spring out of the water to tackle their victims off small boats. The boat you take to see them is bigger, don't worry. There's always cool stuff happening in the science community that doesn't make it to the news but really should. Check out the Good News Network org to see some neat things. Here are a few highlights. Black Circle, a new stem cell injection that halts the progression of multiple sclerosis, is in clinical trials. The California redwoods weathered the wildfires better than scientists expected and are recovering very well. Black Circle, the FDA approved a treatment that cures sickle cell disease. Black Circle, a complete Stegosaurus fossil with skin still intact, has been unearthed. NASA has developed technology for sending data transmissions much further than radio frequencies, and recently sent their first transmission 10 million miles away. Scientists are going to start experimenting with lab-grown cooking oils, which could help curb a lot of the environmental damage caused by mass soy, corn, and palm oil farming. Black Circle scientists have created natural sponges that can soak up nanoplastics. Haven't seen anyone else mention it, so I've got to. Clinical human trials for a drug that can regrow teeth start July 2024 and will run until 2030. As someone who was terrified of my grandpa's dentures growing up, I'm very hopeful for this. The CRISPR-Cas9-based treatment for sickle cell anemia also works on beta thalassemia since both are due to defects in hemoglobin. The treatment causes fetal hemoglobin to be expressed again, which is unaffected by the diseases and hopefully alleviates symptoms. Here patients do not need any treatments anymore. So exciting to see CRISPR-Cas9-based treatments coming to the clinic. Astronomer here. We are now putting the final touches on the Rubin Observatory, which will see first light, aka start looking at the sky in a year or so. It is an 8-meter diameter telescope mirrored to twill image the entire sky every night visible where it is. It's hard to emphasize what a game changer this will be for astronomy. We will literally catalog all the asteroids, see millions of supernovae a year, map the Milky Way, maybe even learn about what dark matter and dark energy are. Put it this way, if JWST is like boring a hole into one tiny spot on a shutter to let light through, this is gonna be like opening an entire window. Can't wait. This is it for me. Not just the Rubin Observatory, but all the Sky Survey telescopes that have recently or are soon to come online. I can only imagine how many Oumuamua-type interstellar objects have passed through our solar system in the past few thousand years that we just didn't have the technology or the sheer luck to spot. The next decade is going to be extremely exciting for astronomers. Humanity will collect more light in the next decade than we have in the last century. In Quebec, the entire public system, teachers, nurses, healthcare, etc., has been on strike since November 13th. Kids have been out of school for close to 5 weeks now and teachers have not gotten paid since. Our government is refusing to give higher pay and better work conditions to the Backbone 04 province. Alex Batty, a young boy from Manchester, UK, who disappeared in 2017 in Spain whilst on holiday with his mother and grandfather, was found alive a few weeks ago in France after he'd been walking for 4 days to escape a religious commune and being spotted by a delivery driver in Toulouse. He was returned home just before Christmas. We are experiencing both child and adult literacy crises predating but exacerbated by COVID. Edit. The people telling me in the comments that these predated COVID, as explained in my one-sentence post, are proving my point. Kids that didn't have very involved parents got destroyed during COVID and teachers were pretty much forced to push them through. Yup, I'm thankful that I live in an area that has very involved parents, so it really didn't impact the trajectory of the schools too much. The only big change that the schools made was that not turning in homework is a 50 and not a 0. Not sure what the objective for that is outside of making them look better. Teacher here. Giving a 50 instead of a 0 makes it mathematically easier for students to recover from 1 or 2 bad grades. A passing HS grade here is 70. I find giving 50s keeps students from getting discouraged while still teaching consequences. Edit. I love how I make the worst typos when taking about teaching. 648. I have received some job applications that have made me really shake my head. An adult 19 to 20 years old wrote out quite a bit of info about their previous experience and work history. It was almost like gibberish to me, and the other managers, though, didn't make any sense. Until one of us realized that this person must have been unaware of the existence of the word "and" anywhere there should be, and they had written the word "in." Once we realized that, it made way more sense. That got me wondering what was going on though. It was as if this person had never read anything and instead completely sounded out the word "and" as "in." Special ed teacher. I work with high school aged students, some with learning disabilities. I have told them a million times to have me check over applications before turning them in, and I have harped endlessly on the importance of correct spelling, capitalization, etc., especially in job college applications. Just had one of my kids turn in 2 applications to various colleges, no idea if he filled out anything correctly. The urgency and importance of well-edited documents is just not there, and I don't know how to make it be there. Around 2015 I befriended a dude. Nice dude, smart when it came to motors, but I was super surprised when I learned he was illiterate. At least he was making an effort to learn how to read and write, and he was older than me. I'm in me 30s now. When posting online and I see someone say, "I am not reading that, you don't have to write a novel," or any similar response, my mind gesto, is reading that hard for this person that a paragraph that takes a few seconds to read is too much. There's a huge amount of carbon stored in permafrost, an estimated 1,500 gigatons, or twice as much as the atmosphere contains. Science is kicking cancer's ass. Almost every cancer has had treatments and drug breakthroughs in the last decade, and it keeps improving with more funding and research. Man, I know, and I'm so fucking glad. The meds my baby brother is on that came out within the past year are working fucking wonders. They light rally saved him from needing brain surgery. Honestly, the call on the good news of his Emery after being on those meds for only 3 months was the best fucking news of my life. And medical technology is literally only getting better. Moderna recently posted news that combining a vaccine, different mRNA code than what was used for COVID, similar lipid packaging, with Merck's Keytruda kept the survival rate around 50% 3 years after starting therapy and having stage 3 to 4 melanoma. 50% may seem low, but that is literally going to save half of all cancer patients who start early enough. Keep in mind this was for stage 3 to 4. If they catch the cancer early enough, it might be much higher. Despite the world going to shit, we really are on the cusp of a medical revolution not seen since antibiotics were discovered. My cousin's grandpa had stage 4 melanoma that had spread to his lungs and other organs. He was given 4 pills, $100,000 for each pill, covered by the Australian government, so he didn't have to pay. He went into remission and is fine now. Might have been the same Keytruda medication, but this would have definitely been a death sentence only a few years ago. The IRS is trying to figure out the best way to catch the thousands of Americans who stole billions of dollars through the Employee Retention Credit. So many businesses claimed the credit who didn't deserve it. The credit created an entire industry of nefarious accounting companies who specialize is taking advantage of this credit. Renly, the largest title company in America, has been completely breached, First American, in a ransomware attack. No one is acting like this seismic as it is. I'm still harping on how Equifax should have gotten the corporate death penalty for their data breach years back, especially considering the negligence that went into it. This sounds like another company that deserves it. The ones that we put so much trust into with our most sensitive information shouldn't be allowed to fall short in their care of that data. For those who use or are considering using Depo-Provera birth control, don't do it. Those of us who were on it for years have developed osteoporosis and degenerative disc disease. Supposedly there is a black box warning, but patients only see the filled injection needle. We never saw the box. And doctors didn't tell us. So I am 46-year-old this year with the degenerative spine of a 70-plus-year-old woman. There is no reversal. I was on it for about 10 years. 8 to 9 years ago my midwife, GYN, was like, "Why on earth are you on this? It's not meant to be taken this long." I said, "No one told me. I seem to be okay. I'm 40 now, but I got on it at 18. I'm sure doing something for that long will have some sort of consequences." I was on it for just over 20 years as an alternative treatment for endometriosis, because there is no cure. But if I had known I would be sacrificing my spine, I could have at least made an informed decision. My advice is, if you start having lower back pain, make sure you get X-rays. I sincerely hope you have dodged the worst. The war on water resources. It needs to be a big deal, but it ain't. I remember when some folks down in the American SW suggested piping water from the Great Lakes to help maintain population growth, farming in the region. People up north here got really mad about even the suggestion. Seems like only a precursor. I wish people would stop moving to places where big cities are just not practical. There's no way a deal will happen to send water from the Great Lakes to the SWUSA because of a deal between the US and Canadian government to protect the Great Lakes. The air is a shared resource by both nations. The Great Lakes states are also pretty uninterested in sharing that water. Their IS compact that all 8 states agreed to that strictly governs who the water can be shared with and how. This article from earlier this year is an interesting read.